The second speaker with us is Karen Massey, the Director of the Missouri Environmental Improvement and Energy Resources Authority.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the school for inviting us. This is really fabulous. I have always been in awe of the work that all of the environmental finance centers do. In particular, the one here, I've always been very impressed. So I feel like you all are the rock stars, just so you know that. It's not me, certainly. So I deal with a state environmental finance agency, and I'm going to get away from that giant picture in a minute, sorry. We deal with programs that deal with hazardous waste, solid waste, energy, water, and wastewater. So we hit almost every environmental media in a lot of different ways. We provide financial and technical assistance as well as research for our clients. Our clients can be communities, individuals, businesses, the legislature, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. We don't care who the client is. We'll work for anybody if it's trying to further the purpose of making our state a better place to live in both the environment and the economy. So that's kind of what my agency does. Now, when they asked us to speak about, come here and speak, it was kind of talk about trends. So I want to make it really clear. These are just some of my observations. I am certainly not spouting the policy of the state of Missouri or even my board, so we'll make that very clear. We also have a short period of time, so I'm going to make a lot of generalizations. I understand I'm doing that, so some things won't apply in every situation. So I've seen really two trends, I think, in dealing with environmental finance, and they both have to do with the limited amount of resources that we have to deal with, the limited amount of financial resources in particular. And I think those two trends, I would have to call them, in shorthand, hard choices and multitasking. And we've been doing this forever, but they have become hugely important, like we have never seen them become important now. We're in a political climate where there just isn't going to be a political and economic climate where there just isn't going to be a lot of free money anymore. Public funding is going away. So what do? How do we deal with that? And so one of the things I think that as states we've been looking at a lot is how do we make these very, very hard choices? Most of my remarks are going to be using wastewater as an example. And in wastewater, we've always had to prioritize. There's never been enough money to fund everything that needs to be done out there. So we've made those hard choices for years. But, in the past, there's typically been a way to get to those projects. Okay, so you can't get it to it with a grant program, you go to a loan program. You can't get to it with a loan program, then maybe they can access the private markets and get funding. But everybody's going to have to comply with the Clean Water Act, and they're going to get there one way or the other. I'm not sure that's our reality anymore. Because now we have less public funding and we have more communities that may not be able to afford to put in the environmental infrastructure that they need, that we need, that our environment and our economies need. But it's just a different world anymore. At the same time, we're having increasing environmental regulations. Advanced treatment costs a lot of money. So it really becomes making hard choices. Who are we going to fund? Who are we not going to fund? Can a community pay for the environmental infrastructure in 20 years? Should we put money toward a community that maybe can't make that payment? It's a very difficult decision, and we've gotten to the point where we aren't just shifting the chairs on the Titanic anymore. We may be looking at projects that just will not happen, period. So let me tell you a little bit about, here's Missouri, here's our state. The darkest communities are the communities that are losing population. The lighter ones and the green ones are the ones that are gaining population. Overall, we had a 7% population increase between the past two census, the numbers on the census data, and our median community population is 474. So we have a lot of very tiny communities, 3 larger urban type areas, and then some small centralized cities. Maybe, I don't know exactly how you would describe them in technical speak. But so this is kind of what our state looks like. Okay, you look down there kind of in the southwest corner of the state, there's something that looks like Oklahoma. That's Christian County. They gain population, they're expected in the next 30 years to have a population increase of 145%. That's crazy big. But then you look down here in our Boot Heel, there's a county there that is expected to lose 45% of its population in the next 45 years. How do you deal with communities if all the ratepayers go away? How do you deal with them in the meantime? We've got to make really tough choices on what's affordable for these communities and what can happen. This is the other thing that's happening in these rural communities is they're getting older. This is what's showing you the shift in Missouri's population trend. No surprise here. The 45 to 65-year-old increased overall by about 27% in Missouri. But we're seeing that worse in our rural communities. What is happening is farm economy. It doesn't need as many people to run anymore. Now there's lots of technology, fewer people that need to be working on the farms, and the support for that agribusiness, it's often located, it's not near the farm anymore. It's now gone to more of the urban areas. So we're having rural flight. People are moving out of our small communities. They're moving out of our rural communities. And we're left with an aging population. And Stan, I don't know where you're at, but most people when they move into retirement, they're not going to be making big bucks afterwards unless they take on a second career. So what we're looking at is a decline in the median household income in those communities as well, and we're not likely to see an increase. So that's what we're dealing with. There's a lot of environmental infrastructure that needs to happen out there, but how are we going to do it? Now, I don't want you to think I'm just whining for the sake of the state of Missouri here. I'd like to thank my friends at the Nebraska Division of Environmental Quality for this map. It's a six-state area. You can see Missouri all the way out to Wyoming. The red dots are communities losing population. It's not just us, folks. This is a huge landmass, and we've got to figure out how to deal with this. What are we going to do? So what's happening? The greens are gaining. I don't know if I can even see any yellows on there, but they would be remaining the same. But that's happening in a lot of places, and we have a lot of needs out there. So what are states trying to do? They're trying to really look at, is it affordable? What's going on here? And for the first time ever, I think people are saying it out loud. The finance is also helping to drive the regulation in what's happening in regulatory issues. It's not only are we going to finance this community, how are we going to make them comply with the Clean Water Act? So finance is now impacting what technologies are being approved, make it lower cost technology. Maybe it's not the platinum model that's going to do every environmental good in the world, but we got to take care of these people and we got to do it in the way we can. It may be, lower cost options. It may be looking at the design flow. Here's a community that has 100 people today, 100 connections. In 30 years, it's only going to have 75. So do we need to design for the 100 connections or 120 like you might normally do? I don't know. The other thing is I think we're looking at longer compliance schedules. How long are we going to take for this? We're going to work with this community and give them more time to get into compliance as we figure these other things out. So it's a real shift in environmental finance where I think the finance to some degree is driving the regulation now, which is a very frightening thing to say, but I think it's the truth. So it's really two things. So states are looking for tools now to make those hard decisions, hard on the finance side, hard on the regulatory side. And they're looking at models. I think everybody looks at population models. They do that, but they're getting more sophisticated. Nebraska had the Environmental Finance Center at Wichita State design a population model for them. It looks at population trends, economic data, and other resources that the communities may have. And they're using that model to help prioritize where their money's going to go, what they're going to do with compliance schedules, all sorts of things. So I think what we're going to see as a result of this is states using data much more to help make those wise decisions. So another thing that we are seeing is that we're multitasking with our funds. New York did something really, really interesting with their Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Typically, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, usually the vast majority of the money goes for wastewater collection and treatment. But in New York, they figured out how to guarantee loans for residential energy efficiency retrofits. What a leap. It's like, how can you do that? This is a water thing. That's an energy thing. Well, when you think about it, power plants, they have emissions. What's in the emissions? NOx, SO2, CO2. There may be acid rain. What is happening in New York is that the deposition of those pollutants from the air into the waters are impairing the water qualities of the state. Water quality, the SRF. It's a perfect match, and it can be done. So we need to think about great ways where our monies can multitask. If we have a need here, what's the connection that we can make over here? Like I said, multitasking and hard choices, they're things we've always done, but they're really imperative and really vital right now. And we need to figure out ways that we can make good choices and do more interesting things with our funds.